Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3.
$1,100.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Finance Committee meeting. Members of my committee are Dean Holland, Amy May, and Cheryl Ramos. Tonight's agenda, we have one item, proposed resolution 32-2022, which is authorizing the Director of Safety to enter an agreement to purchase a new ladder truck. Unfortunately, last week, the fire department experienced some casualties with their fire truck, their ladder, and they've been hustling to try to find how we could take care of the issue without having a ladder truck in our fleet. So with that, the fire chief has put together a presentation. I'd like to turn everything over to him, and we'll go from there.
Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you, Chief.
I'm reading everything upside down, so if I go backwards here, pardon me, but we'll figure it out. It's upside down on my screen here. So, a little technical difficulty here. So, we have our ladder truck is a 1987 Grumman Aerocat, and it was on a Simon Duplex chassis. And in 2008, 2009, we decided collectively to re-chassis and refurbish it because Grumman was out of business and Simon Duplex was out of business. So we had this orphan truck that we were trying to find parts for. We would have, the thing would be out of service for weeks to sometimes a month or two until they could make parts back then in 2008, 2009. Grumman and Simon Duplex had been out of service or out of business for about 10 years. So we found that we evaluated purchasing a new one. At that time, a new one was $1.2 million versus refurbishing and re-chassing. But remember also that it had to fit in the fire station because we were in the old fire station. So it had to be below 12 foot because we had 12-foot doors. So we found out that KME, Kovach Mobile Equipment, had purchased the patents from Grumman. So essentially, they built the exact same truck. And so we decided collectively to re-chassis and refurbish the ladder. Well, that went well for about 14 years. Early last year, we started having problems with it, kind of the end of 21, or the end of 20, beginning of 21. We started having issues with it on the hydraulic system. Hydraulic system controls the ladder. Hydraulic system has nothing to do with pumping water or anything like that. It's strictly the ladder controls and all that. One thing led to another. They decided that the hydraulic pump was bad in the truck. And then it failed. Now, they were trying to diagnose it, and then it failed on us, meaning that we couldn't control the truck at all. It didn't go out of control, you just couldn't move it, okay? So, we put a new hydraulic pump in it and flushed all the lines because when the hydraulic pump came apart, it basically flooded the hydraulic system with brass shavings everywhere. So they flushed it, thought they had it fixed, brought it back. Then we started having problems with the basket leveling system. Took it back, flushed it again, thought it was fixed. Then the pump went out again. So they put a new pump on it, pump number 2. Again, flushed it, brought it back. It was making a terrible sound, a loud whining sound that you could hear over the diesel motor running. Took it to another shop, another place to get it fixed. All of the places that worked on it, they're good, they're reputable, they work on this stuff all the time. Came back from that, they said the setting. Then we started having problems with the basket leveling system again. The basket leveling system, as the truck extends out of the bed, keeps the basket level. So it changes with the angle of the basket. Well, it would just slowly dump. Now, it's not going to dump over and throw you out, but it is, if you're 102 feet in the air and your feet start to sink forward like that, obviously, that's pretty concerning. It wasn't gonna fall down. We weren't concerned about that. We just needed to figure out what the problem is with this. So back it goes again, the third pump. We have the third pump in it now. Each time, it was out of service for an extended period of time, weeks. In January, it was out of service for about 6-7 weeks. We continue to have problems with it. Thought we had it fixed, the third pump fixed it, right? Now we start having problems with valves. We have a valve here. Well, that valve has to be made now because KME's not in business anymore, they don't have parts. So they have to go to Parker. Parker builds a valve for it. We put the valve in, another valve goes on it. It has a bunch of valves on it. My point to the story is, we're not gonna quit fixing this thing. We're pouring money into it, it's hemorrhaging money to the point where $6,000 here, $4,000 here. You know, we're paying for labor, man-hours to continually fix this thing. We're not going to get it fixed. We're gonna continue to fix it. It's gonna continue to be out of service. We had a discussion with the mayor. We were looking to replace our apparatus at 25 years. Our rescue engine is 23 years old now. And so we thought this year it takes 24 to 32 months, no matter what type of vehicle you try to purchase in the fire industry. It takes 24 to 32 months to get them now. When we just bought this new engine, it took a year to get it. Now it's 24 to 32 months because of supply chain, because of so many people buying fire apparatus, because of some of the federal funding that came out and things like that, that every city and municipality got, they're replacing equipment. So we have that situation. Last 2 Thursdays ago, we were doing the practice physical agility for our entrance test. Got the ladder up in the air, everyone climbed the ladder, our last candidate climbed the ladder, had an issue. Instead of having them climb back down, we're like, no, just retract it, bring it back down. It wouldn't retract. It's stuck up in the air. They're stuck up in the air. Matt and I are standing there beside each other. Just, here we go again, another valve. It's exactly what it was. It's another valve. The point is, it's not, we don't feel confident in this ladder. If you're 102 feet in the air and now you're stuck, what's gonna happen on an emergency scene? You know, this truck is built to get our people on roofs, above fires, things like that. It's crucial in a community our size, you know. Yes, we have Dover on one side of us, they have a ladder. Yerkesville has a ladder on the other side of us. Yes, they do. It takes one ambulance call in Dover, one ambulance call in Yerkesville, and we're not getting those ladders. And I don't know what's going on now. Any idea?
It's your laptop.
It's my laptop.
It's a signal from your laptop. Chief,
There we go.
there you go.
Okay.
It's that bad cord.
So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at. We talked about replacing the rescue engine, like I said. We went to the mayor and the safety director and sat down and said, hey, you know what, maybe we need to replace this ladder. We have another fire engine that we could back up our rescue engine if it goes out of service. We don't have another ladder, a spare ladder to back up our ladder if it goes out of service. So that's how we kind of came to the conclusion that we need to look at this, we need to evaluate this. Sorry. So why replace it now? You know, I just covered that. Again, multiple problems with the hydraulic system. That doesn't appear to be an end in sight anytime soon with that. So we protect over $400 million in property in the city and around 20,000 people. We protect over $100 million in the township by contract with Goshen Township and about 4,000 people. Our continued growth in manufacturing, Battle Motors is an example, our hotels that we can use to rescue people from those, as well as any residential property in the city. If you look on, we'll take Front Avenue for an example, or Tuscarawas Avenue for an example, look how close those houses are. We get a house that's heavily involved, we have the ability to get above it with this truck and ground it. And so that's kind of the way we use it. We requested proposals from three reputable manufacturers. Again, 24 to 32 months to get one if we ordered one today. We talked to Pierce Manufacturing, that's what our engine is. We talked to E1, that's through Advantech, ASAP, and we talked to Sutphen, the Sutphen Corporation. Pierce has a stock mid-mount ladder tower that's available in approximately 150 days, meaning that it's basically a demonstrator that they're building, but anyone can buy that along the lines when it's being manufactured. E1 has a stock rear mount ladder tower. It'll be available sometime early in 2024. Sutphen has a stock mid-mount ladder that'll be available in the fall of 2023. And you can see the prices on there as we talked about. Here's our recommendation. That we lease purchase the Pierce mid-mount. We have a financial plan through First Federal Community Bank. It's available in approximately 5 months. That gets us ahead of the curve. That truck will fit our needs well. It has a lot of features that we don't have now simply because it's a mid-mount versus a rear mount. Mid-mount can do some things that a rear mount can't. One of them, that individual truck has all-wheel steer. Therefore, we can get it around town a little better, get it in some tighter spots. It has a turning radius of 35 feet. That's unheard of for a ladder tower that's 41 foot long. Also, being a mid-mount, it'll go down to 20 feet. If you turn the ladder 20 feet out from the truck, you can drop it down 20 degrees below grade. So you can put it right down on the ground. The truck is 8 feet wide and 20 feet for the ladder. If you have a 28-foot road, you can set the basket right down on the ground. It has a 2,000 GPM pump. That increases our pumping capacity by 500 GPM, which is important for ISO. This seems like the right thing to do to us. We can make the payments out of 420, which is the Goshen Township Capital Improvement Fund. The money from Goshen Township goes into that. So we can sell our ladder tower outright. There's dealers that buy them that want to work on them and fix them up, re-chassis, redo whatever. I don't know what we're gonna get out of it if we do that. It could be $50,000, it could be $100,000. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. We're trying to get that evaluated, but that takes a little bit to do that. So, and then we would like to use some of the proceeds of that to purchase some new equipment for the truck. We're not replacing an engine like we did, or adding an engine like we did when we replaced the other one. We put the other one in reserve. We still need hose and things like that on the other one. This one, we're getting rid of it so we can take all the hose off of it and most of the hand tools and things like that. So radio as well. In front of you is the financial part of it, as an example. That gives you an idea with that. We also have,
What, just with the dollar amount there, how long do one of these, what's the lifespan on one of these trucks?
so this one's a 1987, it's 35 years old. I would like to say it'll last another 35, but I don't know the answer to that, you know, how things are today. But the more you use it, obviously, you know, the less time it's gonna last. We don't wear them out on runs. We don't wear them out doing that. They spend more time in training our people than it does actually floating water on fires and things like that, obviously. So,
Thank you, sorry, I just
Sure.
wanted to make sure with the numbers up there.
yeah. So you have that in front of you. I'm not gonna read that to you. We also have First Federal here, if anyone has questions, that they could answer the questions as far as that goes.
Committee members? Committee members, I'll ask you first if you have questions.
Maybe.
Okay.
Chief, real quick, you
Yes.
did have 475 up there, it's 4.5
Okay.
on the proposal,
Okay.
right there.
4.5 kicks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Does any other council member have a question until the committee member's ready? Cheryl?
Yeah, I had a couple. So is it possible to replace only the latter part of it? Cause you're saying you have pumps and valves. Well, obviously, over the term of 20 years, you're gonna be spending money to fix a new one.
Mhm.
Can you just replace the latter part? You've replaced a pump, you're working on the valves, but to put that on the
I think
chassis?
anything is possible. I think anything is possible. I don't know the answer of how much that would cost or if we could get anyone to do it. That's the question, I guess, in my head.
And then, recording, Mr. Mayor, maybe you could answer this. On your list of why we need to get a new ladder truck, you first mentioned Battle Motors, Freeport Prush, ODOC, and Graydol, which are some of the bigger industries here. Have we asked them for a donation?
No. They donate by net profits tax and employee payroll tax.
Just like I donate by payroll
Yes,
tax.
but much more than you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that, but it's, like, I'm thinking 1.8 million's a lot of money. 1.9, plus then my next question to add to that, what is the interest over the term of 20 years at 4.5?
4.5 if we.
No, what is the total interest if you pay the loan out over 20 years? I'm asking what the actual cost of the engine is.
I'll get it for you here in a second.
Well, he's doing that. I did a little bit of calculating here. This does not include preventative maintenance, and it doesn't include especially the repairs that we've been going through here in the last year. But if you take, we purchased this thing in 1997 for $350,000. I didn't work here yet. In 2009, we rechassied it and refurbished it for $595,000. So we have $945,000 in a truck that's really 35 years old. So it's cost us $27,000 a year to have a ladder truck on top of the preventative maintenance. That gives you an idea. If this same truck lasts 35 years, at 1.8 million, it'll cost us $51,000 a year plus preventative maintenance. If that gives you an idea of how much things have went up in that 35-year period.
Mr. Kreinberg, do you have the total
Yeah,
cost?
It's gonna be a rough number, and
Yes.
this is assuming you don't pay it off early, assuming you don't pay extra towards principal. It's a roughly an additional 968,000 over that 20-year time.
Okay.
It's almost another million in interest.
Correct.
So instead of 1.8, we're looking at 2.8.
With financing, yeah.
Yeah, with financing.
Yeah.
Can we pay it off early without any
There's no
penalty?
prepayment penalty.
Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes, kind of for both, for the auditor, line item 420, how much do we get into that a year?
It's actually a fund, it's not a line item.
Or fund, yes.
And about 180,000 right now,
So plenty to cover the payments for now.
yes.
And if we all remember, we've already been discussing renegotiating with Goshen Township here in a few years. And that's gonna be right,
Center.
and that's what goes into that fund,
Yes,
yes. So, and like you said, there's no penalty for paying it off early.
No.
So if the city's in a good spot in the next 20 years where we can put a big chunk of that down,
Or Goshen Township
or.
ups our price, we can add
we
to
can
the
add
payment,
that
so
to
we
the-
can cut that $900,000
in half,
interest, we can cut that
or
down.
less.
Correct.
So,
Yes, Mr. Sellright?
Mr. Chairman, sorry for asking the question earlier.
Thank you.
Where to take.
You're-
Chief, what's the, with one of your standard trucks, what's the ability, I know you mentioned Battle Motors, perfect example, just with the size of the building. If you had something that's in the center of it, you need to be up above it. What's a standard truck? What are you able to do with any ladder you'd have on a vehicle or just a standard truck you have in order to prevent any of that damage from getting further? I mean, obviously it helps out quite a bit.
Correct. We can't reach it with a ground ladder. We can't reach it with a ground ladder at all.
So if none of the trucks can do it, looking at the math here, and if we'll just use the 35 years that the current truck, and it's just a guess, you're looking at preventative damages at $81,000 a year to the taxpayers to be able to utilize this and help get ahead of any type of catastrophic fire at a building we couldn't help without this truck.
Right. Well, and that probably doesn't include the lost wages and income tax. Maybe it does, I'm not sure.
Oh, no, that's just simply off of the estimated interest along with the truck
So,
itself.
so
divided
the
by
other,
35
the other
years.
thing that is positive now compared to back in the 1980s, we didn't have enough people working, we could only run the engine. And then the off-duty people, if they deemed it necessary, then they would bring the ladder. The difference now is we have 10 people working, we're running the engine and the ladder simultaneously to that fire. So if we need it, we have it now, we don't have it in 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, whatever from now. That's a very positive thing. That helps us on our ISO rating because we're responding with enough people, and enough pumping capacity and enough water because of our municipal water system. Yes.
Thank you.
This has a 2,000 GPM pump on it as well, if I didn't mention that.
So,
Mrs. May?
in this letter that I'm reading, the proposal, it states 2 semi-annual payments, years 1 through 8, so that, of 100,000 each. So you said we have 180 or?
No, it's 2 of 50.
That'd be the annual payment, but it's 50,000.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
All right, thank you. And then it goes up 50,000 years 8 through 14 and up another 50, 15 to 20.
Okay.
Thank
Mr. Holland, do you have any questions?
An observation, if you will.
Yes?
In looking at the existing aerial platform and recognizing how we got to where we are today, it's another example. In reality, you can't put or make a silk purse out of sow's ear. It does not work. You know, you have temporary service, temporary capabilities, but at some point, it's going to catch up with you. It has now caught up with us.
Correct.
And these costs will continue to climb. I did this for 40 years. I know what I'm talking about. the costs on continuing to repair this thing will climb dramatically to the point where either, one, we can't afford it, or two, you can't get the parts
Right.
because the parts have to be manufactured. This is not a circumstance where you can take these hydraulic pumps off the shelf because they don't exist. It has to be manufactured, therefore extending your downtime, which is rather dramatic.
Correct. Thank you very much. As far as the chair, I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Hollins. You have good money going in after a bad piece of equipment over and over again. It's time to make a choice. You either don't have the piece of equipment or you purchase one. And with our community and looking for our citizens, and that's what we do, we provide services. I think it's very important that we have a piece of equipment that can help fight a fire. Yeah, it's never important until that fire happens. And in my lifetime, I've seen probably at least 20% of New Philadelphia burn down. I've lived it. I've watched the restaurant burn down and the furniture store burn down. I've watched Lee Hotel burn down. I've watched Springs, Western Auto burn down. And I was a young kid at that time. And we lost those, and there were people all over fighting those fires, but guess what? Can't get up on top to fight the fire, so what you do, you go into protective mode of just saving the other buildings around it. Well, you can see where the courthouse is now, the annex is, that's where a whole block we lost in that one night. So I think it's very important for our citizens that we provide them with service, along with, we have a local bank that's willing to have a product that can help us so we can meet these needs. The only two questions I have for the mayor, Mayor, are you in support of this piece of equipment?
Yes, I am, Mr. Rick.
And the auditor, can we afford to pay for it the way the means have been set up between the mayor and the safety director and the chief?
Yes, it's the current strategy, yes.
Okay. So with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to add resolution 32, 2022 to tonight's agenda.
Okay, let me ask this. Is there a need we need to pass this quickly so this piece of equipment don't get away? Is there, Mayor and Chief
The
Yeah.
sooner the better.
and Safety Director?
Correct.
Okay,
If there's a chance, this truck that is currently sitting on the line being manufactured, anybody else can go tomorrow and say, we want that truck.
okay.
And then what that does, then that puts us in the market of 24 to 36 months down the road.
Did they give any verbal that if, knowing we had a council meeting, were they aware? So they
Yes.
know it? So were they kind of waiting to see what happens? Have you been in contact?
Yes.
Okay, so with that knowledge also,
Just
Ms.
suspend the
Smith.
rules and pass on first
okay,
reading.
thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll take a vote. Amy,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. So the motion has been passed that we will add to the agenda night proposed resolution 32, 2022, and pass on first read. Is there any other issue to come before the Finance Committee?
Mr. Chairman, we may want to add $25 so that the fire chief can get some proper cabling.
Okay, okay. Can we take that out of technology fund? Mayor, are you okay to add that to your budget?
Yes.
25? Okay, thank you, sir.
Just a comment, about the interest rate, I mean, are we already, or for Beth, I guess, or the treasurer, are we already looking into that? Bring that before, do we have to bring that before council for a vote
No.
to switch, or is it
The
just
interest rate?
administrative?
No, that was the second.
Oh, you mean
You mean
the fine print
the
up
the
there?
deposits?
Well, that's really up to the auditor.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding the question.
They have it on there that they would lower the interest rates to 4%.
Oh, well, yeah, we go out to bid. So,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, the treasurer actually
Yeah.
takes the lead on that, so, you know, we have to
Okay.
look at those bids.
Does that come up here at the end of the year?
guess, Tom, right? It comes up at the, it's,
You said the end of 22, that's why I said it should be
So
coming.
first of the
Yeah.
new year.
You know,
yeah, we should probably be
Okay.
acting on that.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Kelly, I have a question.
Oh, yes?
Why are we just hearing about this right now, where we have to vote to suspend rules to spend $2.8 million? Why are we getting this right now and not ahead? You know, so we could have the 3 readings and public participation if there will be. I don't know that there will be, but we have time to get grants and look at donations, a down payment, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Ms. Ramos, what I see is the need of this vehicle is unique, that it is available. I don't think in a month and a half, this piece of equipment may not be available, and I do not want to take, I feel, as my lone opinion, I don't want to take that chance. If the mayor is in favor of it, the auditor says we can pay it, the safety director says they're doing their job, the mechanism of doing their job is for us to okay it, but I'm being told by the CEO and the FCO that the funds are there, they approve it. I think that's our role for our community to make it available if it is there.
Well, that's not my question. My question is, why didn't we know about this?
It just happened
Before.
2 weeks ago is when this came up. And the chief has worked diligently on it to get this presentation for us.
Oh, yeah, it was a very
In
nice
the fire chief's
presentation.
defense, he has come to council and described what vehicles, how much long on the lifespan, which ones are going bad, which ones we're gonna have to, you know, everything. I mean,
And we've been trying to fix it.
Yeah.
We have acted, we're just
Yeah, I
pouring
heard
money.
that.
Yeah.
We're just pouring money, more and more
Got it.
money. I'm more concerned of the out-of-service time than I am anything else.
And this one's only 5 months, but typically it would be 24 to
24
32.
32 months now,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. That's changed since we bought our fire engine. It was a year.
Right.
It only takes 90 to 120 days to build them. But you have to get in line, you know?
Right.
There's so many ahead of us now compared to what there was before. So that's the delay. Plus, there's a little bit of, you know, parts availability and things like that in the construction of vehicles, like a car or anything else right now. But, yeah, we have been actively, like I say, for the last 8 to 12 months, working on, you know, another valve. Here's another pump, you know, here we go again. And the out-of-service time is my biggest concern of anything, of doing without.
They're telling us at this point that this valve that's coming is gonna take, and from what I gather, it's a guesstimate of 60 days. So hopefully that we get it in 60 days and then get it installed. And then you gotta hope that something else hasn't been damaged by what has occurred. So now we go, but the big thing at this point is we're 60 days with a truck that those tires aren't even gonna return. And there's no guarantee, even if you fix it, that, you know, I mean, it could be fixed for a week and we're right back in the same situation because we're still dealing with a truck and components that a lot of them are 35 plus years old, and that's just, they've just, you know, outworn their usefulness.
So what's the plan to cover the 5 months?
That's what they're doing.
We're getting it fixed.
They're getting the valve sent
Yeah,
to
he
them,
said
but it's only
60
60
days.
days to get here
For the part,
for the part.
So for those 2 months then,
But
that lag time, what's the plan to cover
They're-
the need?
So we're gonna depend on Yerixville and Dover for mutual aid. Yeah.
Cheryl, I agree. $2.9 million is a lot of money,
Huge.
but 2.9 million is nothing if we do have a major fire and we lose life and we lose revenue on our taxes because it's a business. It's very important. And again, I don't think anybody here would just love to go spend $2.9 million at a whim. And I don't think this is at a whim. that we
No,
have.
but I mean, I want to hear what the down payment is, what grants are coming, searching for other funding to add to that. So if I recall right, how much was the fire station? 3 million?
5.
Five.
5,
The bond
okay.
was for 5, I should say, total.
But we can do that while we're doing what we're doing. We can still go look for other money. But will lose the opportunity to purchase this vehicle by not pursuing it.
I guess I want to hear that that is going to be pursued.
Will we look for, do we feel, Mayor, that you will look for opportunities to help fund this?
The fire chief and safety director and I will do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So, and I do think they worked diligently to try to find money for us. I think we've seen in the grants and the things that we've been done throughout the city, the roads, the water lines, the curbs, the sidewalks, I think that's what we're in business to do, to provide services to our citizens, to make our community better. And I think it goes the same for our equipment, that we do have a replacement program, because we've all complained that for years and years, we had no replacement program, and now we have one. This is a good example. We have, our other fleets are in pretty good shape, so why this one is being taken care of at not an ideal time, but we need to do something at this time, or we're going to be without coverage. And I think it's very important that we take advantage of this opportunity.
Just right now in the fire department, I'm sorry. Just right now in the fire department, we're at about $4.7 million in grants in the last, since 2008. And that's nothing compared to the service director and what the mayor's brought in other grants. And things
Yeah,
like that.
I understand that.
So we're trying, we're trying to do that, but
But this is a piece of equipment. Can we get help?
We're getting help, Goshen Township's paying for it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Holland.
in 2016, when the mayor and I were elected to come to this body, one of the first things that we talked about then was the $1 million that this rig was gonna cost us when we replaced it. Every year, we have talked about this when we talked about the budget, that we're looking at 1.2 or possibly more. We could not forecast the supply chain problem. We could never have forecast any of the ramifications of that problem. The inflation and related costs, we could have never forecast. This is not a today thing in that
No.
we have been discussing it for years and yet never pulled the trigger on it. I don't think that we can continue to procrastinate and not pull the trigger on it. Now we're forced into a circumstance that we really don't like. I don't like paying 4.5% interest at all. I like the fact that we're dealing with a local bank. I think that's wonderful, that someone is willing to step up and say, we'll ride along with you in providing emergency services for the city. But the mere fact that we're addressing this tonight, this didn't start this week.
I agree.
We've been addressing it for years, and yet no one does anything. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 7:26, 24, excuse me. This meeting of the New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Let us stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow our heads. Dear Lord, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting tonight. Help us with engaging in meaningful discussion and to always put the people's interests above our own. Remind us, Lord, that we are in the position to serve the public. Give the mayor, city leaders, staff, and city council wisdom so that we may solve problems, distinguish between right and wrong, and bring order, stability, and prosperity to our community of New Philadelphia. On this World Mental Health Day, we pray for those who struggle with their mental health and all who support them. Give each of us faith to see beyond the troubles of this time, hope to face this day and every day, and a true sense of love for all your people. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and the spirit of love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Please, everybody, bear with me. I'm a rookie at this, but we're going to do the best we can. Roll call.
Mr. Holland.
Present.
Mr. Lonzer.
Here?
Mrs. May.
Present.
Mr. Pace. Mrs. Ramos.
Here,
Mr. Bricklick.
Present.
Mr. Seldenwright.
Here.
You have tonight's agenda before you. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Like to add proposed resolution 32, 2022 to the agenda tonight? Is there any other additions or corrections? Oh. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. May?
can you do that if you're pro tem?
Yeah, you can vote.
Yes.
You can?
I printed off frequently asked questions from Robert's Rules of Order. If the president is a member of the assembly with voting rights and privileges, he still retains those even if he is acting as president.
Yeah.
Only the regular president can't.
Cannot,
cannot
unless
vote
there's a
because
tie.
he's- Yes, because he's not a voting member of the assembly. A voting member of the assembly can unless there's more than 12 people as part of the assembly.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there any other additions? Roll call?
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes,
Mr. Seldenwright.
Yes.
Everyone has a copy of the minutes? Is there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Roll call?
Oh,
I'll
Make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. Mr. Seldenwright seconds?
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Seldenwright.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes. What I'd like to do this evening, before we get into correspondence, is to move the legislation up to this point here to help with Mr. Holland's condition. So with that, would we start in the legislation? Did you read the legislation parts?
Sure. Or do we need to approve it?
Point of order,
Oh.
don't we have to vote to change the agenda?
You can take a voice vote to do that,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes,
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes?
Mr. Seldenwright.
Yes.
Okay. Now would you read the
Yes.
legislation part?
Ordinance number 16, 2022, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to permanently rezone parcel number 43-04799-000 in the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, from industrial zone to business zone and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
You heard the ordinance of 16, 2022. Is there any action to take this evening?
Third reading?
We're holding that to fourth.
Okay. Hearing none?
All
Next.
right. Ordinance number 17, 2022, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the Tuscarawas County Public Defender's Office for the provision of legal representation for indigents charged with violations of New Philadelphia city ordinances in the municipal court where such offenses carry a possible loss of liberty, establishing a compensation in terms thereof, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
You've heard the third reading of ordinance 17, 2022. Is there any action by council this evening? Ms. May? Ms.
I ask that ordinance 17, 2022 be passed.
Second? Mr. Holland? Roll call?
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick?
Yes.
Mr. Seldenright?
Yes.
Ordinance number 20, 2022, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to designate approximately 1,450 feet of unnamed alley, of which approximately 525 feet is undeveloped on the west side, running due west of Fifth Street Northwest to another unnamed alley as Locksmith Lane Northwest, and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
You've heard the second reading of ordinance 2022. Is there any action to be taken by council this evening? Hearing none? Next.
Resolution number 30, 2022, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to appropriate funds received from Tuscarawas County per the ODOT Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Grant for the purposes of demolishing existing dilapidated and unsafe structures in the city of New Philadelphia, and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
You've heard the second reading of resolution 30, 2022. Is there any action to be taken by council this evening? Hearing none?
Resolution number 32, 2022, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the safety director to enter into an agreement with the Atlantic Emergency Solutions to purchase an Enforcer chassis 100-foot mid-mount all-steer 38567 and equipment for the same at a cost not to exceed $1,870,000, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
You've heard the first reading of resolution 32, 2022. Is there any action to be taken by council this evening? Mrs. May?
Yes, that we suspend the rules on resolution 32, 2022.
Do I have a second? Mr. Seldenright? Roll call?
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Seldenright?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick?
Yes. With the rules being suspended, is there any action to be taken by council this evening on resolution 32, 2022? Mr. Seldenright?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, pass resolution, I'm sorry, I guess with that, resolution 32, 2022.
Do I have a second? Mrs. May? Roll call?
Mr. Seldenright?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
No.
Mr. Ricklick?
Yes.
That concludes legislation for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, clerk. With that,
May I be excused, Mr. President?
Mr. Holland, you may be excused. Let the minutes show that Mr. Holland has been excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We'll go with correspondence. Julie?
Two council members from Mayor Day dated September 28th, 2022. This is an email titled Update from Friends of the Homeless. To council and administration from Executive Administrative Assistant to the Mayor, Jamie Bailey. This is dated October 3rd, 2022. This is the mayor's end-of-month report for September of 2022. To council and administration from Income Tax Administrator for the City, Vicki Daniels. This is dated October 5th, 2022. This is the September 2022 Income Tax Report. To council and administration from Administrative Assistant to the Auditor, Heather Denham. This is dated October 5th, 2022. This is the Statement of Cash Position, the Expense Report with Encumbrance Details, Check Report by check number, and Check Report by fund, and Bank Report for September of 2022. Two council members from Mayor Day. This is dated October 5th, 2022. This is a forwarded email titled OAC 143.03 with revisions, asking President Kemp if this issue could be assigned to the Safety, Health, and Service Committee. President Kemp asked Mr. Holland to take this into his committee. To council, administration, and Fire Chief Parrish from Mayor Day. This is dated October 6th, 2022. This is an email titled Proposal to Purchase a New Ladder/Tower Engine for the Fire Department. To council and administration from Mayor Day dated October 6, 2022. This is an email titled Arbitrators Report and Recommendation in the IAFF Contract Negotiations. To President Kemp from Law Director Faith. This is dated October 7th, 2022. This is an email titled Urgent, Please Assign to the Finance Committee with Resolution 32, 2022 as the attachment. President Kemp asked Mr. Ricklick to take this issue into his committee. To council and administration from Mayor Day. This is dated October 7th, 2022. This is an email titled Letter of Commitment from First Federal Community Bank. To council clerk from Treasurer Tom Gerber. This is dated October 10th, 2022. This is the City of New Philadelphia Investment and Savings Report for September of 2022. And to council and administration from Mayor Day dated October 10th, 2022, the mayor's report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Courtwright. Now we go to administrative report. We will now hear from the administrative report. Mayor Day?
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. Things I would like to highlight from the report that I sent you earlier today. Pedestrians using the mid-block crosswalk on South Broadway at Allen Lane will now be able to activate crossing signals before they walk across that intersection. New pedestrian crossing signs and flashing warning lights were installed there last week, and the warning lights will be activated this week yet. I want to thank City Safety Director Popham, Police Chief Goodwin, and Service Director McAbeer for spearheading this project. They've informed me that the manufacturer of the crossing system sent an extra set of signs and warning lights, so they will be deciding which other mid-block crosswalk downtown will have that safety equipment installed. Mayor's office has received complaints from downtown merchants about persons violating the downtown parking 2-hour limit. On the downtown parking map that I included in the report and that'll be posted online, the yellow areas are the 2-hour parking areas, and the green hatched areas show where free public parking is available. I've asked the police traffic control officer to step up efforts to identify violators and issue parking tickets. Vehicles left in parking spaces beyond the 2-hour limit help create the perception that there is limited parking in the downtown area. And if you work downtown, you need an off-street parking space. There are spaces available in the city parking lots. Just come to the mayor's office, talk to Jamie Bailey about purchasing a parking pass. Also want to remind you the annual Fall Art on the Alley Festival is coming up downtown this coming Sunday, October 16th from noon to 5 p.m. And it'll be the largest ever, according to Wilma Mullet of the Tuscarawas Arts Partnership. She says that 3 entertainment stages will be set up along the festival route, which this year will extend to around the corner frames and gallery on South Broadway. I'd also like to thank the county commissioners for the use of the county parking lot behind the courthouse and the county parking lot at Fair Avenue and 2nd Street Northeast. That'll be used for festival parking. Finally, Mr. President, I would request we have an executive session tonight so that the city labor attorney, Brian Murtis, can explain the fact finder's report and recommendations to settle contract negotiations with the city's firefighters union. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We have a motion or request on the floor.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Alonso makes a motion for executive session. Second. Mr. Seldenwright. Roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Seldenwright.
Yes.
Mr. Holland. Oh,
You
Mr.
just
Holland's
used
not.
it.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Bricklick.
Yes. We will have executive session just prior to adjournment, so, right after new business. Or we'll do it right after the visitor comments and council comments.
Yeah, whenever you want, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Okay, back to the administrator report. Service Director McAbeer?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. The Park Lane Waterline Project, we met with Tucson Incorporated last week. They will start that project next Tuesday, the 18th. Folks out there will probably see them do some staging within that Park Lane to North Broadway area with the grassy area there. All the pipe is located at the water plant, so they should start, they wanted to start maybe Thursday, Friday, and Monday as far as hauling the pipe up there, some equipment, and they'll lay down sand and some material up at the north end there at Lakeview. So again, a couple thousand feet of 12-inch on Park Lane, and about 1,000 feet of 6-inch up on North Broadway to loop that system together. So again, that's gonna start on the 18th. You'll see some movement up there. The tricky spot there is we'll have to keep everybody, have access to driveways. We may plate some things because that's the only way in and out, if everybody knows that. We've talked about that. They've assured us that that will happen. We'll have no through traffic, which we typically don't have much up there, but we will put signs up to any looky-loos that may be going through there. But I think the project, they said approximately 2 months. They'll do all of Park Lane first because that's the paved area that they will have to come back and do before weather. So Park Lane will get finished, the whole 2,000 feet of that, pave it, and then move up onto North Broadway. Also, down in the gazebo quadrant, with the help of Buckeye Career Center, the step-down area there where all the pavers are, Mr. Vandal and the landscape class gonna come in the next couple of weeks. Ordered the pavers through, I think it's Matheny out of Canton, and once they get delivered, they believe it's gonna take them approximately 10 work days to tear up all that and put all new pavers down in there. We're gonna slowly try to do all the quadrants as we can, as money is available. That was part of my budget, downtown repairs. So again, we'll go through that probably in the next couple of weeks. And I want to say publicly a big thanks to Buckeye Career Center, Bobby Olsep, and Bruce Vandal's class, because once we get that, the Jamie and Lacey were kind enough to pick the stuff out because I have no eye for that. So it should look nice. But that's going to start here in the next couple of weeks. Also, we haven't had much movement on the Franklin Square storm sewer project. Still working through some things on the underpass there. The railroad is making us jump through a couple more hoops for some core drilling around the foundations of each embankment. But we'll work through them. It's just, it's a $1,500 here for a test and $1,500 for another permit, $400 for another permit. But long story short, we should have the bottom of that within the next couple of weeks. All the pipes down there. We got the right of way through Great All finished a couple weeks ago through Margie Strauss and Damon Gold. So once that gets finalized, I will have the project price and the contractor. And that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Did you have the price of the project on Park Lane? what a bid in, came in?
I did, I gave that when it first had it, and I don't have it, but I'll email that out to everybody. I'll email the
Okay.
whole sheet out. to
Okay,
everybody.
that's fine, okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Thank you. He was looking at me, sorry.
Okay.
On Ray Avenue, 600 block, that house that was just
Uh-huh.
torn down there on the corner of, I think it's Fifth Street Northwest. You know, on the corner there, that.
Oh, Sixth Drive.
Yeah,
Sixth
that's
Drive.
it.
Yeah, Harry Rollins.
So, of course, that's in my ward, but I was just curious what was going in there. I
Two
see-
duplexes.
Okay, because I see 4 basements dug.
Yeah, 2 duplexes.
Okay, and there's no frontage? Looks like
Sure.
there's no frontage,
Yeah, sure there would be. Yeah.
enough for a sidewalk in front.
Oh,
So I was
It
just
goes
curious.
back.
No, I know, I drove by.
Yeah, I mean, what's there, I mean, we didn't let them do anything,
Right.
approach anything, or do anything Board of Zoning Appeals. Whatever the frontage is, 20 or 25 feet, that's what they're at.
Yeah, they're just 4 basements.
Yeah, like I said, it's
Wow.
2 duplexes.
Okay,
Yeah, and, that's Owen Miller.
yeah, I was gonna ask who
Yeah,
who
Owen
the
Miller.
owner was.
Yeah, yeah.
I hear a lot about his property.
Yeah, he's helped us out immensely with, a lot of the properties that we've heard about and some of the landlords we've got little to no, cooperation with. 3 homes in particular he has purchased. Look at the one on Fair Avenue, 400 block, on the south side, that gray one, that was a absentee landlord. Look what it is now.
It's amazing now.
Sold for $230,000. So again, he also purchased one, if everybody remembers, the one on Tuscarora Avenue. He purchased that one off the same landlord. Same landlord, we just had someone, in theory, get the Michaels building. He went through that also. We have a place out on Cotterly right now. Owen's made it through out there to try to get some movement out of that individual's home. I think everybody knows about that house too. So, yeah, he's done well for us.
Any other question?
Yeah,
Mr. Alonso?
Service director, what about the one, the house 2 doors down from Mary's house?
That's on the list?
Yeah,
That we
I thought
showed?
that was one of the ones that's gonna be coming down.
Yes, that's on that list.
That one's been an eyesore.
The
for a
Yeah.
400 block
Yeah,
No,
that's-
it's 600 block.
Yeah, it's 2 doors down, it's
It's
one
the
of the
other way,
same,
yeah.
one of the same
That brown.
landlords been dealing with, but it's on there too. But that's on that list that, you guys passed that last meeting,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And we're still waiting on an MOU from the county to spend our money,
Okay.
so, yes.
Any other
Thank you.
questions for the service director? Thank you, Mrs. McAbeer.
Thank you.
Safety director.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, everyone. I have a couple things this evening. First off, in the police department on Friday, K-9 officer Michael Pierce resigned due to medical reasons. He's unable to perform his duties, so effective Friday, he resigned. He's going to continue to take care of Diesel until we can train the new officer to handle the dog.
Okay.
And then, basically what I passed out earlier, this is just a snippet of what's going on downtown. And in case you didn't know, I wanted to kind of give you just a little bit of, we have a business, his employees are intimidated, he's intimidated, the things that are going on. There's an email to the mayor from another business person in the downtown area about the same kind of activity. And then, of course, I just gave a photo of, this is just kind of what's going on and has been going on. In my, time here at New Philly, I've seen a lot of things come and go, and I probably never dreamt that I'd see people sleeping under blankets in corners of buildings. And what we would like to do is to try to help the businesses downtown, is our ordinances at this point, there's not a whole lot we can do other than ask them to leave. Them leaving is on them. If they tell us no, there is nothing we can really do. There is a copy of an ordinance out of Cleveland that they kind of used in their park system about sleeping on benches and stuff. But I'd like this to go in Councilman Holland's committee, and along with the law director, just see if there's something we can do to try to help the situation that's going on downtown.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
I'll make sure Mr. Kemp gets that to forward that to Mr. Hollins.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the safety director? Okay. Auditor,
I have no report, thank you.
thank you very much. Treasurer,
No report.
thank you very much. Law director,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Is
You
that-
have
is
to
that
turn it
on?
Do you know how to?
turn it off?
It has a little green light that comes on.
Julie's on her way.
I know.
Thank you. From time to time during my tenure as law director, I've risen to acknowledge people we've lost in our community that made a difference. I previously had discussed Ed Brill, who was a great community servant, and Bob Vandal, who was somebody that was internationally recognized for music that he wrote to teach children. Well, I would be remiss tonight if I did not acknowledge a great Quaker that we lost recently, even though this one is my father. Marvin Bud Fate was born and raised a New Philadelphia Quaker. A 1957 graduate of New Philadelphia High School, after college he did what we want many of our young people to do. He returned home and served his community. What is almost unheard of in today's world, he spent 44 consecutive years of his professional life in public education in service to others as a teacher, coach, guidance counselor, and an administrator. As a lifelong educator, every young person he encountered was important to him, and he never hesitated to go out of his way to help make others feel better. If a child wanted to play football for him but could not afford shoes, Coach Fate made sure that he got a pair. Teenagers that came from impoverished and sometimes abusive homes could frequently be found at the Fate household, swimming, throwing the football with Mr. Fate, or just enjoying a good meal with his family, including at Thanksgiving and Christmas time. No one was ever looked down upon because of their circumstances, and everyone to him was special. Sometimes he might be called out in the middle of the night, away from his own family, to help a young person whose life had been upended by substance abuse. Students knew Mr. Fate would not turn them into the authorities, but would counsel them and get them the help they needed. If need be, he would personally drive them to get rehabilitation services and would always be a source of support and encouragement in helping to turn their lives around. He also helped thousands of kids further their education and obtain career paths that would make them successful in life. It was not unusual when he was out with his family to have someone come up and talk about how he saved their life or how they would not be where they were today if it were not for him. Whether you were in trouble or just needed a friend or a helping hand, you could always count on Mr. Fate to listen and help you. In a profession where it would be very easy to become cynical or frustrated, Bud Fate was a beacon of hope and optimism who always said, "There's no such thing as a bad kid." He never stopped helping people, even after he retired. He worked, his first job after retirement was transporting indigent people to the doctors for medical appointments. He is the type of person that would shovel your neighbor's drive after a big snowstorm, take out their garbage if they couldn't do it themselves, and visited people in nursing homes. We had something at our church. He always made it a point to take food across the street to the police and firefighters to share with them and those who served us. Even when he was in his 80s, he went out of his way to make others feel appreciated. At his grandson's sporting events or school productions, he always made it a point to tell every teacher and coach what a good job they were doing. And we found out after he passed that he also spent his mornings, every morning, taking coffee to the school crossing guards at his grandson's schools. A lifelong educator, a community servant, Marvin Bud Fate was something that we seem to have too few of in this world today. Not only was he a good Quaker, he was also a really good man. Thank you for letting me share that with you.
Thank you, Marvin. Any questions for Law Director? Okay. Move on to Board and Commission report. Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission meeting for this month has been canceled due to a lack of agenda items. We will reconvene next month.
Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. here in council chambers with one variance request to be heard. It would be through the, excuse me, the new, just lost the pet store, Petco on signage, typical. And I want to bring that up because of, for 7 years, the biggest thing that we meet on is signage and the few that you're allowed to have and the allowable allowance. Walmart, take for instance, in the way the ordinance reads, you're allowed 200 square feet of signage. They're at approximately 1,400 square foot of sign, which does not look absurd for that spot, because 200 is the maximum. We're gonna look at that stuff with a consultant that the Planning Commission has picked out, and just other things that that's needed done for the last 30 years, because there's been no updates. That's the only reason I wanted to bring that part of it up, because Petco, if anybody's looked at the new building, the way they look, the one in Texas was the first one. I think it looks great, but all that stuff that's on that building goes towards signage. Again, so they'll be in here tomorrow night through a Teams meeting, but that's the end of my report.
Okay, any questions? Airport Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll be meeting tomorrow in council chambers at 6 p.m.
Okay. Any questions? You did have one of your members show up today for your meeting.
Get there early.
Mrs. Carver was so nice to explain to her that's tomorrow, so, okay. Park Board. Mitch is not here. And Dean's not here for the Health Board. We'll move on to Council Committee reports. Finance Committee. Finance Committee met this evening at 6:45 to discuss the purchase of a new ladder truck. Proposed resolution 32, no, it's resolution now 32, 2022. We had some good discussion, a lot of good questions. Had a presentation by the Fire Chief Parrish. We had the two finance representatives from First Federal Community Bank present, so we had a lot of information. And it would come out of committee past 3-0 to go to the full body. Meeting was adjourned at 7:24. Any questions? Thank you. Public Works and Economic, Dan?
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
Dean is not here for Health, Safety, and Service. Cheryl, Zoning and Annexation?
Thank you. We're having a public hearing on ordinance 16, 2022, at 7 o'clock. On the October 24th too. We have to have that before we permanently rezone.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. Ramos? Okay. Salary Committee, Mr. Seldenright?
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
Okay. Again, Park and Cemetery, Mitch is excused this evening. Contact and Special, Mrs. May?
No report this
No
evening.
report. Okay. We've now come to the part of our meeting for visitor comments. Visitors wishing to speak will speak their name, address, and hold their comments, address their comments to the chair. They'll hold their comments to a 5-minute time limit. If you would happen to need more time, we'll allow that to be reasonable. Is there anyone that wants to give anything to visitors for tonight's meeting? Seeing none? Any council comments this evening? Okay. Do we have any unfinished or old business? Any new business? With that, we'll take a 5-minute recess and come into executive session. We are out of executive session. We have a presentation, or we have a item on the agenda for approval or disapproval of a negotiated contract. So do I have a motion from any members of the council to take a voice vote?
It's fact finder report, I
Fact
think.
finder
Point of
report?
order.
Yeah,
And so it would be a motion to approve
Approve.
or reject
right.
the fact finder's recommendation.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to.
Mr.
approve.
Solomon
I'll second
makes a
that.
motion, and Mr. Lonzer seconds. Would you please take?
Mr. Seldenright.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rickliff.
Yes. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I already did that before I did this, sorry.
So moved.
Back down to that 2-3 word ending.
8:37.
8:37, holy smokes.
Okay, kidders.
Don't want me doing it, means they laugh.